Good day, grade 7 students. In our previous discussion, we learned about the measures of dispersion or variability for ungrouped data. So we computed for the range, mean deviation, variance, and standard deviation. And now we are going to learn how to compute for the measures of variability or dispersion for the group data. Okay, again, these are the data which are commonly presented in a frequency distribution table. So sabi ko nga po sa ating previous discussion na almost the same naman po yung proseso, yun nga lang may mga additional steps sa group data dahil nga naka-frequency distribution table yung ating values. So here are the formula that we are going to use in computation of the measures of dispersion of group data. Kung mapapansin niyo po, yung mga susunod na formula na ipapakita ko, may pagkakahawig siya dun sa formula para sa ungroup. Okay, meron lang karagdagan. First is the range. Range is the difference of the upper boundary of the highest class and the lower boundary of the lowest class. So, halos katulad lang din nung sa ungroup. Ang sa ungroup ay highest score minus lowest score. So, since our data nga po is presented in a frequency distribution table, ang gagawin po natin is to get the upper boundary of the highest class, meaning we have to add 0.5 to the upper limit of the highest class, and then get the lower boundary of the lower class by subtracting 0.5 from the lower limit of the lower class. Okay, so I will be showing an example later. Next is the mean deviation. So this is the formula. MD equals summation of F times the absolute value of X minus mean all over N. So halos katulad siya nung sa ungroup, nagkameron lang ng F dun sa labas ng absolute value. Okay, and by the way, yung X dito, it refers to the class mark. Since hindi po natin ginagamit yung individual value sa pag-compute, okay, dahil nakagrupo nga sila, we are going to make use of the class mark. Okay, so class mark minus mean, and then after that, we will multiply the absolute value of the deviation to the corresponding frequency. Tsaka pa natin kukunin yung sum. Okay, so later on, I will be showing an example also. Next is the variance. So, ganun din, nagkameron lang din ng F dun sa unahan ng parentheses. Okay? So, imumultiply lang din natin sa frequency yung makukuha nating deviation squared. And then, divide it by N. And then last is standard deviation, which is the square root of the variance. So, ganun lang din, i-square root lang natin yung makukuha natin sa variance. Okay? So, kung mapapansin nyo, yung variance and standard deviation, N lang po yung denominator na gagamitin natin. Okay? So, usually kasi pag naka-frequency distribution table, yung mga ginagamit po natin sa activity natin ay yung data na taken from population, which involves lahat. Okay? Lahat po. Hindi lang chosen or selected values. Kaya po, N po yung ating gagamitin na denominator. Pero nakadepende po yun, you have to analyze, of course, kung ano nga ba yung values na kinocompute natin. Siya ba ay taken from the sample or from the population? But sabi ko nga, dahil ito yung nasa presentation natin, ang ibibigay kong mga example po is for the population variance and standard deviation. Okay, so let us try to solve for the range, mean deviation, standard deviation, and variance of the given table at the right. So this table shows the scores of 7 results students in their math summative test. So kung papansin nyo, siya ay up to 100, and then ito po yung mga frequencies ng bawat class intervals natin. So 2 students got scores of 98 to 100. One student got a score of 95 to 97. And of course, hindi natin alam what exactly their scores are. Okay? Kasi naka-class interval po siya. So, paano natin kukumputin ang mga ito? First is the range. So, ang gagawin natin is to apply the formula. The formula is upper boundary of the highest class minus lower boundary of the lowest class. Okay? Kuhanin muna natin yung upper boundary ng highest class. So, pag sinabing highest class, of course, since ang data natin naka-arrange po siya ng decreasing, so nagsimula siya sa 98 to 100, 95 to 97, pababa to 71 to 73, so decreasing siya. That means ang ating highest class is 98 to 100. Okay? Ang lowest class natin is 71 to 73. Tatandaan ha, nakadepende po ang highest at lowest sa values ha, hindi dun sa position ng numbers. Hindi porket highest nasa taas agad. So, titingnan nyo rin yung arrangement ng data natin kung siya ay lowest to highest or highest to lowest. So, ito yung highest natin. Again, if we are going to get the upper boundary, we are going to add 0.5 to its upper limit. So, the upper limit is 100. Mag-a-add tayo na 0.5. We will get 100.5. Okay? And the next is lower boundary of the lowest class. So, ang lowest class natin is 71 to 73 and the lower limit is 71 rather. So, ang gagawin natin is to subtract 0.5 from 71 and the answer is 70.5. So, yan na yung values na ating isusubtract. So, let's substitute in the formula. R or range equals 100.5 minus 70.5. Okay? So, the difference is 30. That means the range of our group data here is 30. Next is we are going to compute for the mean deviation, variance, and standard deviation. Again, ito yung mga formula natin. So, syempre, kakailanganin natin yung mga values na yan, okay, para makompute natin yung tatlo. So, paano natin makukuha yung values? Of course, we are going to construct the table. Okay? So, ganito yung magiging table natin, ha? Pinagsama ko na po lahat ng mga columns na kakailanganin natin para dun sa tatlo. Okay? So, ito po yung table na ating gagamitin. Kung mapapansin nyo po, meron po ulit dyan na XM at FX sub M. Okay? Dahil, di ba, kailangan po natin muna na i-compute yung mean. Okay? Para makuha natin yung mean deviation, variance, at yung standard deviation. Okay? So, again, when we are computing for the mean of a group data, we have to find first the class mark. Okay? So, ang class mark is the average of the lower limit and the upper limit of each class, meaning we are going to add 98 plus 100, that's 198, and then divided by 2, that is 99. Okay? So, that is the first class mark. And the next is 95 plus 97 is equal to 192. Divided by 2, that's 96. Okay? So, gagawin nyo yan hanggang sa baba. But then again, meron akong shortcut na tinuro before sa inyo, di ba? Na pwede nyong i-deduct na lang po yung interval or yung class size dun sa mga class marks natin para makuha natin yung mga susunod. Okay? So, ano nga ba yung class size natin? Yung I. So, diba, sabi ko po, yung common difference ng lower limits or ng upper limits, automatic na yung I natin para hindi na masyadong mahirap hanapin. So, diba, pag minus natin, 98 minus 95 is 3, 95 minus 92 is 3, 100 minus 97 is 3. Lahat yan, pag minus nyo yung magkasunod 3. So, that means our I is 3. So, ang gagawin nyo po, from here, babawasan nyo ng babawasan ng 3 hanggang sa dulo. So, 99 minus 3 is 96, diba? So, that means the next value would be 96 minus 3. And that is 93. So, kung mapapansin nyo, yun yung average or yun yung nasa gitna actually ng 92 to 94. Kasi, diba, 92, 93, 94. Tatlo sila ang nasa gitna, 93. Okay? So, next, 93 minus 3 is 90. Minus 3, 87. Minus 384, minus 381, minus 378, minus 375, minus 3, 72. So, yun yung mga gitna ng bawat class intervals natin. Okay? So, after that, fx sub m means we are going to multiply f and x sub m. So, multiply natin. Gagamit syempre ako ng calcul dito. First is 2 times 99. 2 times 99 is 198. Next is 1 times 96, of course. 96 yon. 1 times 93 is 93. 6 times 90 is 540. And then 6 times 87 is 522. And then 5 times 84 is 420. 9 times 81 is 729. 2 times 78 is 156. 3 times 75 is 225. And 5 times 72 is 360. Okay, so dahil kumpleto na yung values natin for f times x sub m, of course, pwede na natin siyang i-add. Kasi yun yung kailangan natin para ma-compute yung mean. So, i-add po natin summation of f times x sub m or class mark. 198 plus 96 plus 93 plus 540 plus 522 plus 420 plus 729 plus 156 plus 225 plus 360. So, ang sum po ay 3,339. Okay, so 3,339. Ayusin lang natin ang sulat. Hindi masyado makita yung 9. Ayan, okay? So, di ba, pagkatapos natin makuha yung sum, i-divide natin yan sa n or sa total frequency natin. So, ano nga ba yung n natin? So, ang n po is yung total po ng f. So, that means, i-add din natin siya. 2 plus 1 plus 1 plus 6 plus 6 plus 5 plus 9 plus 2 plus 3 plus 5 is equal to 40. Okay, so 40 students pa lang involved dito. Ngayon, para ma-compute yung mean, i-divide natin. Okay? So, mean. Ang mean po is summation of f times class mark divided by n. Okay? So, that is 3,339 divided by 40. The answer is 83,475,000. Okay, so 83.475. And since siya ay 3 digits, round off natin para mabawasan. Ano? So, gawin natin po siyang 83.48. 83.48. Ayan. Okay? So, ngayon, dito na natin ima-minus yung class mark. Okay? Kasi ang next po natin gagawin is yung absolute value of x minus mean. So, yung x po na ating gagamitin is yung class mark po since hindi naman natin alam yung mga individual scores. So, yung representative ang gagamitin natin. Ima-minus natin dito sa 83.48. And, since absolute value yan, of course, always pong positive ang ating mare-return na values sa column na ito. Okay, gagawin natin siyang positive. So, isa-isahin natin. 99. Since positive naman lahat ng makukuha, unahin natin i-type sa calcu ang 83.48. Kasi ang gamit ko po ngayon ay scientific. So, 83.48 minus 99. So, siya ay negative 15.52. Ang positive niya ay 15.52. Next, 96. So, siya ay 12.52. Next ay 93. 9.52. Next is 90. Ayan. So, ito na. 90 minus 83.48 is 6.52. Next is yung 87 naman. So, 87 minus 83.48 is 3.52. And the next is yung 84. 84 minus 83.48 is 0.52. Next is yung 81. So, 81 minus 83.48 is negative 2.48. So, gagawin natin positive yon. Kaya 2.48. Next, 78 minus 83.48 is 5.48. Next is yung 75. So, the absolute value of 75 minus 83.48 is 8.48. And last, the absolute value of 72 minus 83.48 is 11.48. Ayan. So, ang sunod naman po dyan ay yung next column. So, kung mapapansin nyo, nagka-F po siya, which means imumultiply natin yung nakuha natin sa previous column doon sa frequency. Okay? Sa kanyang corresponding frequency. So, imumultiply natin bawat isa. 2 times 15.52 is 31.04. Next, 1 times 12.52 is 12.52 pa din, kasi times 1. And then 1 times 9.52 is also yun pa din, 9.52. And then 6 times 6.52 is 39.12. And then 6 times 3.52 is 21.12. Next is 5 times 0.52. We have 2.6. Next, 9 times 2.48 is 22.32. Next is 2 times 5.48. It's 10.96. Next ay 3 times 8.48. That is 25.44. And last po is 5 times 11.48. So that is 57.4. Ayan. So dahil meron na tayong values para sa f times absolute value of x minus mean, which is ito yung kailangan natin sa mean deviation, kukuhanin na natin ngayon yung sum. Okay? So, summation of f times x minus mean equals. So, i-add natin lahat yon, 31.04 plus 12.52 plus 9.52 plus 39.12 plus 21.12 plus 2.6 plus 22.32 plus 10.96 plus 25.44 plus 57.4. Ayan, mag-ingat po ulit ha. Sa pagko-compute, dapat ay walang magkakamali po na digit. So, the answer is 232.04. Ayan. So, meron na tayong nakuhang value. 232.04. So, yan yung gagamitin natin sa mean deviation. Okay. So, compute natin. Mean deviation, ang formula ay ito. We have here summation of f times the absolute value of x minus mean over n. So, ang nakuha po natin pong summation is 232.04 divided by n. Our n is 40. Okay? So, 40 po siya. Divide natin ngayon. 232.04 divided by 40 is equal to 5.801. Okay, so dahil tatlo siya, round off natin. MD is approximately, dahil ang katabi ng 0 ay 1, so 0 pa din siya. 5.80 or pwede pong 5.8 na lang. Okay, so yan, meron na tayong mean deviation. Next naman po is yung variance and standard deviation. So, kukumpletuhin na natin yung table. Balik po ulit tayo dun sa table. So, now, we will be completing the last two columns of our frequency distribution table. Ito po yung ating gagamitin to compute for the variance and standard deviation. First po is this column wherein you are going to square the difference of each score from the mean. Okay, since kanina, di ba, nakuha na natin yung distance ng bawat class mark from our mean, ang gagawin na lang natin is to square that value. So, nasa ang column ulit yon. This column, the absolute value of x minus mean. Okay, so ito yung distance ng bawat class mark sa mean na atin pong i-square or i-multiply sa kanyang sarili. Okay, so tandaan, when we are squaring a number, we multiply that number by itself. Okay, so let's do that. First is this one, this value, 15.52 squared. Okay, or 15.52 times itself. Ang makukuha natin initially is 240.8704. So, since masyadong marami yung digits after the decimal point, para hindi gaanong mahirapan kayo sa computations nyo, please round the answer to the nearest hundreds. Okay, so that will be 240.87. Okay? So, para hindi masyadong madaming digits. Next. So, dito naman tayo sa 12.52. So, 12.52 squared or 12.52 times 12.52, we will get 156.7504 or simply 75. Next, this value, 9.52 squared. 9.52 squared or 9.52 times 9.52 is 90.63. Ayan, i-round off na natin to the nearest hundreds. Next is 6.52 squared. 6.52 squared is 42.51. Next is 3.52 squared. So 3.52 squared, or 3.52 times 3.52, we will get 12.39. Next is 0.52 squared. We will get 0.27. Next is 2.48 squared. So 2.48 times 2.48 is 6.15. And the next 5.48 squared, or 5.48 times 5.48, we will get 30.03. Next is this one, 8.48. So 8.48 squared, or 8.48 times 8.48, we will get 71.91. And last but not the least, 11.48 squared. That is 131.79. Okay. So, dahil kompleto na yung ating second to the last column, the next thing that we're going to do is to multiply these values to their corresponding frequencies. Okay? Yun po ang ilalagay natin sa last column, which is f times the quantity x minus mean squared. Okay? So, i-multiply natin itong second column tsaka yung second to the last column. Yung f at tsaka yung x minus mean squared. Okay? Now, let's do that. 2 times 240.87, we will get 481.74. Next is ito, 1 times 156.75, of course, is ganun pa rin, 156.75. Next is 1 times 90.63, ganun pa rin siya kasi times 1. So, 90.63. Next is 6 times 42.51. 6 times 42.51 is equal to 255.06. Next is 6 times 12.39. 12.39, that's equal to 74.34. Next is 5 times 0.27. And the answer is 1.35. Next is 9 times 6.15. Yeah, we will get 55.35. Next is 2 times 30.03. So, the answer is 60.06. Okay, next is 3 times 71.91. That's equal to 215.73. And last, we have 5 times 131.79. So that is 658.95. Okay, so yan. Kompleto na ang last column. At ito yung mga values na kailangan natin para sa ating variance at standard deviation, which means that we have to add these values. So, we will get the summation of f times x minus mean squared. So, let's add 481.74 plus 156.74 75 plus 90.63 plus 255.06 plus 74.34 plus 1.35 plus 55.35 plus 60.06 plus 215.73 plus 658.95. So we will get this sum 2049.96. Ayan. So, meron na tayong sum. Dahil dyan, makocompute na natin ang variance at ang standard deviation. So, now, let us substitute our computed values. First is, let us find the value of our variance. Again, ang formula po natin is SD squared equals summation of F times X minus mean squared all over N. So, ang atin pong sum na na-compute po is 2049.96. So, we are going to divide this sum by N. Again, ang N po is 40. Okay? So, let us divide. Okay, we will get a quotient of 51.249. Let us round this value to the nearest hundreds, and we will get 51.25. So, 5 po siya kasi ang katabi niya ay 9. Kailangan natin mag-add 1 dun sa 4. Okay? So, ito na yung variance natin, 51.25. So, next is the standard deviation, which sabi ko nga po, square root nyo lang po yung ating variance. Okay? So, ito yung formula natin. I-rewrite lang po natin ang ating i-compute. So, that is square root of 2049.96 divided by 40. Okay? So, sabi ko nga po, pagdating sa standard deviation, ang i-square root nyo ay yung actual na quotient, hindi po yung value na ni-round off natin dun sa variance. Okay? So, di ba yung actual na quotient ng 2049.96 at saka ng 40 is ito, yung 51.249. So, yun po yung ating kukuhanan ng square root. So, what is the square root of 51.249? So, let us get that one. Ayan. So, according to our calculator, it is 7.15884, etc. Okay? So, i-round off natin ngayon yung sagot natin to the nearest hundreds. Standard deviation is equal to 7.16 kasi ang katabi ng 5 ay 8. Okay? So, yan po ang ating mga values na na-compute. Okay? For the range, we have 30. For the mean deviation, we have 5.8. For the standard deviation squared or the variance, we have 51.25. And for the standard deviation, we have 7.16. So that is the measures of variability or dispersion for group data. I hope nasundan po yung mga steps na ginawa natin. So, sa paggagawa po ng activity, make sure po na maging maingat sa inyong pagko-compute. Tingnan pong mabuti yung numbers na atin pong tinatype sa calculators. Kung maaari at kung may time po, i-double check po natin yung values bago po tayo mag-proceed sa next step para po hindi po maapektuhan yung ating final answer. Okay? So, That would be all. Good luck po sa pagsasagot na activity. Thank you for listening to our discussion and God bless. Bye!